Did you know that wafer dies aren't just for cutting? Once you have the right sandwich for your die cutting machine, you can emboss with your dies too. Let's open up a whole new world of possibilities with this technique. Every technique video is narrated live while I'm doing the technique, so you're getting a real-time view of how the whole process works. Pull out the supplies I'm using and create right along with me, pausing as you need. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Just about every die machine manufacturer has tools out there that you can add on that will allow you to take your wafer thin dies and use them as embossing tools. So in this video, I'll be using the Gemini Junior. I encourage you to check out my blog for listings for other machines that I was able to find to get the right sandwich for your machine. Okay, so for this machine, I've got my 2 acrylic plates, and I've got this rubber mat and this plastic mat. These both come with the Gemini, and you can buy replacements if you happen to tear them up or they're too warped or whatever. You can get replacements. So the Gemini sandwich starts with an acrylic plate. And I like to build my sandwich backwards because this particular plate, this plastic shim, likes to warp. There's not really much you can do about it except to put it on last, so that way it's not getting in the way of everything that you're trying to build. All right, so again, I've got my acrylic plate and then I've got my rubber mat. The next thing I need to do is put my piece of cardstock down along with my die that I want to emboss with. So this is a cover die. It makes these really cool hearts, and it's going to go down on my paper. First, though, I'm going to spray my paper with a little bit of water. This is going to do 2 things for me. 1, it's going to help keep it from cracking, and 2, it's going to help it really get a nice deep embossed impression. All right, so I'll line that up and then get my tape to stick as best as I can. This is really just kind of temporary to keep it in place so I don't have it shifting all over. All right, so that's good. So this is going to go down on my sandwich on top of the rubber mat. So again, I've got my acrylic plate, I have the rubber mat, I've got my paper with the die, and it's blade side down, just as if you were going to cut it. So you might think, oh, it's going to cut through the rubber. It's not going to cut through the rubber. That's what this is designed for. All right, so this is my sandwich so far. The next piece I'm going to add on is my plastic shim, and then my final acrylic plate. So like I said, this is backwards to the way that it's shown in the illustration for the Gemini, but because that plastic shim gets a little warpy, it works better that way. Now I can flip it over if I want and put it through the machine the direction that they recommend it goes. All right, so that has gone through the machine. I'm going to flip this over again so it doesn't fly all over the place. I'll pull off my top layers here. All right, so here we go. Look, my rubber mat has not been cut through. It's in perfect condition. I'm ready to use for the next time. And here is my die cut piece. Now this is not die cut, it is embossed. So as you can see, it did not cut through the back side. And because I used a little bit of water, that kept any of these deep impressions from cracking. So that gives you a better result, just to spritz it with a little bit of water. And then you won't have any cracked edges. So isn't that gorgeous? So now I have this beautiful plush kind of embossed piece. You even get a secondary embossing from the bits around the edges of your die cut. It really is a beautiful dimensional look. So the great thing about this technique is that you're not limited to cover dies. You can use anything that you want, any kind of dies. So let's give some alphabet dies a try. I've got some pulled out here. I'm going to say hey, H-E-Y, with an exclamation point. And this is a piece of temporary tape, so just some Post-it tape. And I'm going to get my letters all lined up on here. And I basically want them touching so that way I don't have too much space in between them. Otherwise, it might look kind of funny once it's embossed. So I'll get this Y just a little closer so that they're basically touching here. And the same thing with the exclamation point. This is just a really great way to make sure that you've got everything aligned before you go ahead and put it on your cardstock. So again, we're going to take our cardstock and just spritz it with some water. A nice light mist, that's all you need. And then I will go ahead and put my die in place. All right, and if you need to attach it just to make sure it doesn't come up, of course you can add a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my dies in place. And again, they're going to go right on the rubber mat. So my acrylic plate, my rubber mat, my paper with my dies on them so that it's as if the dies are going to cut through the rubber. Then my plastic layer and my top mat. And then I'll run it through. All right, let's see what we've got here. So again, our rubber mat, you can see the impression in there, but it is not cut through. So we know we're good to go there, ready for next time. And then when I remove this, you can see that my words are embossed in there, but they're not going to pop out. They've not been cut through. Spraying them with a little bit of water helps to allow the paper to mold and bend around the die. And I've got a really cool embossed look. Once you have the proper shims for your machine, you've doubled the possibilities with all of your dies. Now you can emboss with them too. I hope you enjoyed this technique and you add it into your toolbox sometime soon. When you give it a try, share it out on Instagram and tag me at NicoleWattCreates. I always love to see what your creative mind is thinking. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. And until next time, happy crafting.